PFF is running one of their biggest sales ever. 40% off a PFF Plus subscription right now using the promo code BLACKFRIDAY. That means that you get everything fully unlocked. You get the grades, you get the stats, you get all the fantasy advice, the betting advice, which our new player prop tool is available on web as well to make you a smarter, better. You've got all of the draft analysis, the free agency analysis, all of that great stuff. Subscribe.pff.com to get 40% off a year-long PFF Plus subscription. Get it now. 3 more games here for us to discuss on the Week 13 holiday slate of NFL action. Raiders at Chargers. Raiders got Greg Olsen at the helm now, calling plays for him with Chip Kelly out. Olsen's a longtime NFL play caller, but I believe last time he called plays, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago? No, he was offensive coordinator with the Jags around like 2015, 2016. Was he with the Raiders in 2018, 2019? Anyways, he's been an on and off coordinator play caller in the NFL for a long time, like 15 years. So he's got the experience. They're letting him step in, and maybe the offense looks a little bit different here. But against a beat-up Chargers team, one that's coming off a bye, how do you feel about the Chargers in this one?
You are correct that the last time he was an OC with the Raiders, it was actually with the Raiders, 2018 to 2020. I always remember him back in the days with the Bucs coaching, right? The Josh Freeman era, right?
Yep.
Back then, I forgot.
Who could forget?
Honestly,
Who could forget?
I forgot that was that long ago, to be honest with you. Greg Olsen and Josh Freeman back in the day. Wow, what an era that was. But, Greg Olsen calling plays for the Raiders. But I'll look at the Chargers' offensive side of things, and I think something that makes their offense so dangerous is just there's so many, just a constant threat in the slot, right? And it could be on both sides of the field. When you talk about Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen, now Oronde Gadsden is in that mix, and he played in there a lot when he was at Syracuse throughout his career there, despite being listed as a tight end, right? Even Trey Harris and Quentin Johnston get involved a little bit. But you look at the Chargers and how many threats they have in the slot. 3rd most targets to slot receivers and 3rd most yards to slot receivers in the league this year. 8th in receiving grade, 10th most explosive plays. And when you really look at the options here for the Raiders when it comes to defending the slot, Darnay Holmes has really struggled at the nickel. Jamal Adams, now a linebacker, has kind of fluctuated between that linebacker and nickel role. Jeremy Chin will get in there as well, but this is really the first problem you have to worry about is how do you match up with this team in the slot? And the first time these two teams played, Gadsden didn't get any targets. He really wasn't involved until a few weeks later, so now you have a whole different problem to deal with, and a guy who can get down the seam vertically against this cover 3 defense. I think it's going to be a real problem on both sides of the line of scrimmage there, especially if they're in these 2x2 sets. You have McConkey, you have Keenan Allen, you have Gadsden. There's all sorts of problems I think the Raiders could have in coverage facing all these slot receivers and how dynamic they are for this Chargers offense.
Yeah, it's hard to have faith in the Raiders right now. It really is. On the offensive side of things, to me, whether it's this game or anything down the stretch, you got to get Ashton Jeanty going more. I mean, Ashton Jeanty has been fine this season, but I don't think he's been the spectacular offensive playmaker that you drafted him to be honest, especially when you talked about drafting him versus an offensive tackle like Armand Membu or something like that, the debates that we had heard pre-draft. And I'm not sitting here saying that let's call Ashton Jeanty a bust. That's not anywhere close to what I'm saying. But I do think that you want more out of that particular player where you drafted him. And I think the offensive line has not played well this season. Guys have been hurt. We've mentioned how big of a loss it has been without Colton Miller there in that lineup. But it just feels like the continuity, the chemistry, the confidence, it's not there with anybody. And maybe that changes now with a new play caller in there in Greg Olsen. But to me, Ashton Jeanty, 18 explosive runs this season. That's tied for 14th most in the NFL. I mean, overall, when you look at this offense, they're 28th in red zone percentage. They're 25th in third down percentage. I mean, this is just not a good offense right now. So to me, obviously, you need Geno Smith to play better as well, because you got a quarterback question to answer once you get into the offseason. But I want you to feel really good about Ashton Jeanty going into the offseason. If the season ended right now, I think you'd go, yeah, I mean, he's a good player for us, but I think he's not one that really overcomes the deficiencies of the offensive line. Can he do that anymore? Is there a certain type of a game plan in which you feel better about that investment there? Because I'd just love to see him run a little bit more confidently, run loose, obviously being able to get this guy to have more explosive plays. I know it's tough during the season, but I'm kind of just looking long-term here for the Raiders. And it's just a bad season. They're not a good football team. They're not playing well offensively. It's terrible, to be honest with you. So does the new offensive coordinator change things at all whatsoever? Can you get Genty more involved and feel more confident about him as your focal point going into next year? That's what I'm hoping to see. For this game, the Chargers are extremely beat up. I'm still taking the Chargers. 24-16 is my final score here.
Yeah, it's hard for me to really blame Ginty, and I'm a huge fan of his game. I'm just going to throw one stat out here for you. So total missed tackles forced as both a runner and a receiver. Number one, Bijan Robinson, tied for second, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, and then fourth right there is Ashton Ginty and Devon Achane. And I just look at this Raiders team, and it's why I picked the Browns to beat them last week. They can't block anybody. They can't block a soul right now without Colton Miller, with all the injuries on their offensive line. So I think even against a Chargers team that in the trenches has been banged up, certainly on the offensive line, but I've got the Chargers too, 27-13. The Raiders, you're right, it's a mess. They can't block anybody. Geno's not playing well. The defense doesn't have enough talent. It honestly, depending on opponent, it might be hard to see them winning another game this year, as bad as it's been. As if this offensive line continues to play like this, then they're gonna have a hard time scoring points on anybody.
And at this point, I wonder if their fans would prefer that as well, right? Give us the better draft pick at this point if the year is going to be a waste.